I am an Irishman living in Belgium, so I really appreciate the fact that this is in English because my Swedish is not so good. We have a debate on a very hot topic at the European level and also in Sweden, and that is about the wolf. And at this moment in time, it's a really good opportunity to have this debate because we have a proposal by the European Commission to change the level of protection of the wolf at the international level. We have a really nice setup today. Delighted to have the Minister for Rural Affairs, Peter Kullgren. We have Gunnar Glöersen from the Swedish Association for Hunting and Wildlife Management, who is the large carnivore expert. And we also have Benny Gäfvert, who is an expert in WWF Sweden, Senior Advisor on Large Carnivores. We also have the European Commission present, Humberto Delgado Rosa. He is the Director of Biodiversity in the European Commission. Unfortunately, he's had to send his apologies, but thankfully he has sent his presentation to us, which is here and ready to go. And this will set the context for this discussion. So please, let's have Humberto Delgado Rosa.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank FACE and the Swedish Game Fair for the invitation to join this conference. I'm very happy to be able to provide you this contribution, even if I'm not able to attend in person your event. And let me start by saying that wolves and other large carnivores are, of course, an essential element of our natural environment and common heritage. Their natural recovery is a success of the EU nature conservation policy. Ensuring a balanced coexistence between us humans and them large carnivores is a priority for the EU, and the objective to achieve favorable conservation status of those species in all biogeographic regions of the EU remains a legal obligation. The wolf is by far the protected large carnivore that is showing, in most member states, a very fast recovery, both in terms of range and population. And the wolf is also the large carnivore associated to most socio-economic conflicts derived from its presence and expansion. This is why last December, the Commission presented a proposal for a Council decision to update the protection status of the wolf under the Berne Convention, which is a prerequisite for any possible change in the EU rules that implement such convention. The Commission proposal concerns the change of the legal protection status of the wolf under the Berne Convention, aiming to move it from Appendix 2 on strictly protected fauna species to Appendix 3 on protected fauna species. The objective of the legislative change is to provide national authorities with more flexibility in dealing with possible conflicts, while maintaining the obligation to conserve healthy wolf populations and thus to address the relevant pressures and threats upon them. The proposal largely corresponds to the position in favor of the mitigation of the protection status of the wolf in the Berne Convention that the European Parliament expressed in its resolution of November 2022. Now, the Commission proposal was made on the basis of the most up-to-date and comprehensive analysis of the situation of the wolf in the EU, published last December, together with a proposal. Such analysis has confirmed and documented how, after a long period of deliberate persecution, which led to its extinction in most European countries, the wolf has achieved a remarkable recovery in the last couple of decades. This should be appreciated by all genuine conservationists, hunters included. This was allowed by a combination of ecological, social, and legislative changes, including land abandonment, natural reforestation, increase in population of wild ungulates, changes of public attitudes, legal protection at national, international, and EU level, and also, of course, by the resilience and adaptation capacity of the species itself. With respect of the population of wolves, the in-depth analysis estimated a total of more than 20,000 wolves in the EU in 2023. This is significantly higher than the previous available estimates, based on the reports submitted in 2019 by the Member States in the framework of the Habitats Directive, which covered the period 2013 to 2018. In 2023, breeding packs have been detected in 23 EU member states, meaning all mainland member states except Luxembourg, where the wolf is present but reproduction has not been reported yet. The current trends also show that wolf populations are still increasing in most of such member states. It should be noted, however, that increasing populations of a species do not automatically translate into a favorable conservation status. Favorable conservation status also depends on other factors, such as the distance from a favorable reference level, both for the range and the population, the structure of the population, the quantity and quality of the habitat, and the prospects in terms of pressures and threats. The next conservation status assessment will be reported by Member States in 2025 for the reporting period 2019 to 2024. Based on this data to come, the Commission will prepare its State of Nature report by end of 2026, with the conservation status and trends of habitats and species at European level. In terms of procedure, the Commission proposal on the wolf for the Berne Convention is currently under discussion in the EU Council. The Commission will continue to provide its full assistance for an agreement on the proposal. If the proposal is agreed by the Member States, the EU will table the amendment proposal at the next meeting of the Standing Committee of the Berne Convention, taking place at the end of 2024. The adoption by the Standing Committee will require the agreement of 2/3 of the contracting parties of the Convention. As said, this change will allow the Commission to consider how to align the EU legislation to the revised protection status of the wolf under the Berne Convention. But regardless of the adoption of the proposal, we all need to focus and continue working on coexistence with the wolf, as well as with the other protected large carnivores, because large carnivores will continue to exist and occupy their place in EU ecosystems. Coexistent work requires engagement and investments on many issues. Prevention measures and livestock protection, technical assistance and advice for farmers and shepherds, damage compensation schemes and payments, awareness and information, dialogue with and involvement of all stakeholders, targeted use of lethal control to address specific situations, prevention and management of bold wolves, monitoring and data collection, etc. I would like to mention a couple of recent concrete examples of hunters' involvement in coexistent work. Under the LIFE project Wolf Helps EU, a specific action is being carried out in strict partnership with hunters. It aims to improve the knowledge of the impact of the wolf on wild prey, and more in general, the effects of predation pressure in wolf, wild prey, livestock systems in certain areas of France, Italy, and Slovenia. Another relevant example is the hunters' support for the Life Lynx project, including for the release of additional lynx specimens to reinforce the Dinaric southeastern alpine population. And by the way, collaboration with hunters was also crucial to ensure the recovery of the Iberian lynx, which was the most threatened wildcat in the world and is now expanding and out of immediate danger. Finally, I would like to mention the hunters' participation on the stakeholders' platforms on large carnivores, both at EU level and at regional and national level in several member states. Stakeholders' dialogue doesn't solve everything, but it can certainly contribute a lot to reduce polarization, foster mutual respect and understanding, and thus help address conflicts on what are complex issues. From the side of the Commission, we will continue to step up our efforts to support the competent authorities and stakeholders with finding and implementing sustainable coexistence solutions in line with our legislation and common policy goals. I count on the hunting community's support and engagement in this work, contributing to nature conservation, biodiversity recovery, and effective approaches of coexistence with large carnivores throughout the EU, including Sweden, of course. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think this sets the context very well. So we're going to have a panel discussion. I would like to ask Gunnar and Benny if they would join me here at the top. I will pose some questions to them. This will be quite dynamic. We will have scope to take some questions from the floor. It's good to see we have a diverse audience as well. And then we have the Minister for Rural Affairs, Peter Kullgren, to give a conclusion, which will summarize the discussion. So, you're welcome, Benny and Gunnar. I think if you stand around this, yeah, perfect. There's a mixture here of the European dynamic in the context of this proposal, and there's also quite a healthy debate in Sweden over the years about wolf management. Maybe to start with, Benny, I would like to ask for your views on wolf management in Sweden, and also how do you see this legal proposal from the European Commission? I mean, for example, what potential benefits or challenges, if this was successful and if it could lead to a change of protection status in the future for Sweden?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us here. And I, as David said, I represent WWF here in Sweden, and also a group of colleagues to me on the European level, on the EPO, that we call them. But all the offices of WWF are single offices in every country, so to speak. So we act on our own, but together in a large network covering the whole world, actually. So just to begin with. And the large carnivore management in Sweden, as we know, has continued for several years now, and we usually say that it's been a conservation success for all the large carnivores, actually, because we have large carnivores overall, wolves, wolverines, lynx, and so on, and the brown bear as well. And if we look back 30 years ago, it wasn't that way at all. So, just to begin with, and we have a large amount of good thoughts about the Swedish EPA about how to manage the wolf population in Sweden, and it's gone the right way for a long time. There are a bit points that we're worried about. Of course, the genetic situation for the wolf population is a really tough task to work with, and that's one of the main issues that we on WWF is working on. And on the other question about the Berne Convention, we're over Europe, so to speak, we're worried about what will happen if you open this Habitat Directive up and give the opportunity to pick certain species out of that and do something with it. We're a bit very afraid of that you will pick and choose as you want in the future, and if you ask anyone, they don't really know how this will work. Open up the Habitat Directive and so on. So that's one of the main issues, to be a bit careful about downlisting the wolf, for example. And in the Swedish perspective, we really think that we have the tools to use today to maintain a good management of the wolf population. I stop there.
Okay. Thank you, Benny. Gunnar, can you say a bit about your view on wolf management in Sweden today, and what would it mean to have this downlisting proposal successful? What type of change would that result, if any, in the Swedish system?
Yes, thank you. I agree with Benny. From a conservation point of view, we've been very successful in Sweden. When I started working on large carnivores in early 90s, the official numbers for the lynx was 200, today we have 1500. We had about 30-40 wolves, today we have 400, and so on. So from a conservation point of view, we've been very successful. I also think that the carnivore management in Sweden is successful in many ways, because we are probably one of the few countries that really manage the large carnivores in Sweden. At least countries that are still in Annex 5, where they are strictly protected. So I would say that the large carnivore management is working very well in Sweden at the moment, compared to other countries. You don't have to go further than Finland to see how terrible it can be. And the second question regarding downlisting, I would say that from the Swedish point of view, it really won't change that much, because we are using the derogation within the directive in a way that most other countries don't. We still have the open case, the infringement case against Sweden. It's been open since 2010, but the Commission has not taken Sweden to court, so I think probably it won't happen. And the reason why I say it won't change much for Sweden is that as we are using the derogations, we really do manage them the way many other countries don't, but would be able to do if you had the downlisting. So I think that big advantages would be for the other countries within Europe if you downlist the wolves. For instance, if you look at Germany, that has about, say, 1,500 wolves at the moment. With the same growth rate they've had the last 10 years, they will end up in 20,000 wolves in 10 years. And I think that would be a good thing for Germany to have the opportunity to manage the wolves. To be even go so far as say it's stupid not to give themselves the opportunity.
Yeah. And of course the challenge with this proposal is that it sits with the environment ministers within the council, and that itself brings the real political dimension into it, including in Germany. Benny, would you agree, just listening to Gunnar about the impact of a potential switch from strict protection to protection in Sweden, that not much would change, but maybe this is also an opportunity if you could elaborate on the management toolbox for addressing conflict in Sweden. Is it working well? Is it wide enough in your view in terms of improving coexistence?
Well, thank you for the question, and I think the toolbox is good enough today to work with, and some of the issues using that is the legal procedures that come with some of the decisions taken with the toolbox, so to speak, and that's an issue that we have to work with over time, of course, but we can use the derogations that we have today in good order to maintain a good management in Sweden. That's my point of view, but the other side of it is the political side, and you have to maintain a good long-term view on the management, and the political side is a bit a good and a big issue in that way as well, because the time changes and the will changes in the political side, so that's one of the challenges in that way, I assume.
Good. I was going to put another question to you, Gunnar, but I think you've answered it in your last question. If, from a Swedish perspective, this proposal from the Commission wasn't successful, or we had to wait a number of years, or if it didn't happen at all. You've mentioned the example of Sweden. It is one of the very few in Europe where hunters are involved in the management of wolf, where the population is strictly protected. The other example country is France, but that's largely led by the government, and the level of satisfaction we feel from the hunting community isn't at the level it's at in Sweden. But let's say we're faced with the scenario where we didn't have a successful proposal. What would your thoughts be on the future? Also taking into account this legal challenge, that's the infringement that's still open, Commission versus Sweden.
But as I said, from the Swedish point of view, I don't think it will have that major impact, because we are using the derogations, as I said. But for other countries, probably take quite a few years because we have the same discussion again to be able to open the or downlist the wolf, which means that, as I said, Germany, for instance, what happens in 5 years when they realize that they have 5,000-6,000 wolves and they need to do something, and they realize that we should have said yes in 2024. So I think that's the main problem, to inform the governments throughout Europe that what possibilities it gives, but it doesn't mean that you have to sort of shoot down kill a lot of large carnivores. You still have to maintain favorite conservation status.
Good. We have scope to take questions and comments from the audience. There's no such thing as a bad question. Please, and when you pose a question, just introduce yourself as well.
My name's Matt. I'm actually from New Zealand, so we don't have any predators down there at all, actually. And so wolves are kind of fascinating to me, and I personally believe they should be in the ecosystem. I'm definitely not against it. The question that I hear debated a lot is, do wolves kill for fun? I've had many heated debates with people, and I don't know at all. Like, in your professional opinion, will wolves just kill for fun?
I wouldn't use the word fun.
Well, okay.
But they do overkill.
Okay.
It's like letting a child into a candy store.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't stop them, they will just keep on eating and eating and eating. And that's what's happened when they come in an enclosure with sheep, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Since the sheep are not able to run away, they will start killing and keep on killing. But as I said, I wouldn't call it for killing for fun.
No, there's definitely the wrong term, but I think it's the general term people use for it.
But they are not possible to do that when it comes to white angulus, for instance, because then they will run away.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, just as small, I just add to Gunnar, and we often get the question when it's been an attack on a sheep farm or something, why do they kill 15 or 20 sheep? Are they evil? And we always say that no, they're not evil. It's in the tradition that wolves are evil. That's one thing. But killing a sheep, the hunting trigger is going on all the time when they see sheep running around into the fence. You can do if you, as Gunnar said, the wild ungulates are not at the same situation. So if you had free-ranging sheep or something, the damages in that particular situation would be smaller, for example. So that's what we answer a lot.
Yes. Please, great. We have an international colleague. Please introduce yourself.
Kowalewski, Vice President of Polish Hunting Association. In the beginning, I really wanted to thank you for the invitation and making me possible to be in here. I came for a wedding, to be honest. My sister-in-law is getting married to the man from Sweden, but I decided to visit you anyway. I wanted to agree with our speakers. We got a huge problem in Poland with wolf. Our estimated population is from 3,000 to even 5,000, depends who's counting. Of course, the green NGOs are always making the number lower, and the hunters are making it a bit higher. But it's a problem that's going to get worse and worse over time. And I see our main task as a hunters to bring the rural voice to the decision makers. So I absolutely agree with you. I'm happy that we managed to convince our country to abstain from the vote, because the ministry, which is super green now, the dark green ministry, wanted to vote against. Now idea is to abstain from the vote, which is still an improvement, but that's a huge problem when the emotions are getting into the decision making. And we know there is a huge problem and it's going to get worse. So thank you again for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here with you.
Thank you, Christoph, and great to have that international intervention from Poland. Do we have other questions? Yes?
Thank you.
Carl, please introduce yourself.
Yes, so my name is Carl Van Eckerman, and I'm the CEO of the company Natlink, and for my Swedish fellows, the company who has We Hunt and Tracker and Berell. Question, in order to capture the data to follow this and to do the analysis and investigations you are doing, what is the method you are doing today, and what would be the most favorable method into the future?
the Gunnar first and then Benny.
Inte jag heller.
I wasn't clear. I didn't really get the question.
Okay, so the question is, today when you're capturing the data
Yeah.
about the wolf and the population and how it moves and all that, what methods are you using today? And if you could choose, or if you would like to evolve that method, what would be the preference of doing it in the future? If
Okay.
you had the means, the tools, the
You
technology.
mean monitoring data? Yeah, okay. I would say I got the question at the table during lunch. What about monitoring data when it comes to large carnivores? I would say that we have the best monitoring system in the world in Sweden. So I would say that we really don't have to improve that much, especially when it comes to wolves. We are using DNA, snow tracking, and so on. And trail cameras. So I think the monitoring system is really very good. Then we have, for instance, lynx is much harder because you have to snow track and you can't use DNA. So there are some challenges, but in a European perspective, I think we are world leading.
With WeHunt and applications, can you say a bit about the ability, the ease at which a citizen can...
We don't, well, in the monitoring system, we don't use WeHunt. We are using Scandop TAS, Carnivore Damage Center has produced, where we can send a message to the trackers at the local level, so they can check every single track and make sure that it is a lynx and it's for instance a family group. So I think we have the systems we need. Everything can of course be improved. The challenge is when losing snow due to climate change, that will be probably be a challenge because a lot of the work that's been done requires snow. So that can be a challenge in the future.
I can just add to that the inventory methods in Sweden are very good in an international level, and we must try to give the opportunity for the other European countries to take this knowledge down to their different countries, so to speak. But we must also remember to develop new techniques. For example, as Gunnar said, to DNA analysis in tracks, for example. That's one of the projects that WWF is financing now, to find better methods to just do a DNA check on the tracks without snow and so on. And that would be a really good tool in the future to give the management the best values to use in maintaining the best managements as well. Because if we going to coexist with the large carnivores, for example, we have to find better ways to do it and more ways to do it, both on the way to protect for example, livestock and so on, and also to follow how the populations are developing in the future.
I can add to this that in other countries the hunters not very much involved in the monitoring. For instance, in Romania, the hunting of bears was stopped, is it 5 years ago or something like that? And the main reason that they don't have a good enough monitoring system. So it's important, I think it will be even more important in the future. And that would probably be one of the reasons why countries would stop hunting. You see that when it comes to birds, just next month. For instance, if countries that don't have a good enough monitoring system might lose the opportunity to hunt certain bird species.
I'm conscious of time. Do we have another question or comment from the floor? Super. Really constructive. I've been in other parts of Europe and it's rare to see the National Hunting Association and one of the main nature NGOs having so much in common. Often it's a little bit different.
Then we are talking on a weekly basis. So.
Gunnar has been in Romania, for example, discussing bear with NGOs, and it's much more challenging, of course, following a ban, which of course sparked tension. Now is a really good time to hear from the Minister for Rural Affairs, Peter Kullgren. to provide some words and a conclusion to this panel discussion. Please, Minister.
Thank you. First of all, a big thank you to the panel for your contribution to this discussion, and listening to you and to my colleagues in other European member states. I believe that one of the most crucial aspects we must consider today is how effective the conservation of large carnivores in Europe actually has been, exactly like you said, during the last few decades. It's also clear that this new situation requires solutions to deal with problems caused by a growing population, which weren't present just a few decades ago. And as the wolf population has increased and spread, so have the problems. And I fully understand the frustration felt by many hunters, farmers, and others, especially those who is living in the rural areas, regarding the size and distribution of the wolf population. And this is particularly true in the southern parts of Sweden, where the wolves pose additional challenge due to closer proximity of farms compared to other parts of this country. And wolves mostly affect rural areas, but it is not a rural issue. When farmers, for example, worrying about investing or don't let their animals graze freely, it affects the food supply, the whole country, no matter where we live. And as the Minister for Rural Affairs, I have repeatedly made my and the government's position clear on this issue. And we want to reduce the wolf population in Sweden. It is too large. And we believe that it's the highest level of protection for wolves is just not justified in Sweden or Europe. To maintain a credible system for protection endangered species, there must be a possibility to remove them from the list once they are no longer endangered. The management needs to become more adaptive. And the rapid spread of wolves in Sweden is a clear example how we can protect endangered species when necessary. And therefore, the European Union must trust each member state to manage its own wolf population when it has been proven to be viable. And the Swedish government is actively working to influence the international regulations that have implications for Sweden's wolf management, such as the Berne Convention and the European Union's Habitat Directive. And has also, of course, joined forces with other countries to lower the protection status. And now it seems that this work is starting to pay off, and I'm really grateful for the Commission's proposal for the wolf in the Berne Convention. And from the Swedish government side, we will do our best to land this proposal in the best way. So, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for a really interesting panel, and a special thanks to Kullgren for organizing this. And I am sure we will revisit this subject soon again. Thank you very much.